This is Madia-as Digdigan Buenaflor, extending an invitation to each and every one of you everywhere, as my way of commemorating the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. I will read and serialize my novel, The Blood of Three, starting on Tuesday, August 27, and continuing episodes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Follow the drama on my YouTube channel. May we forever exhale and inhale love and peace. Chapter 12. Colonel Holt was restlessly pacing the earthen floor of his hut while a guerrilla stood at attention nearby. Then he stopped and faced the young man. As soon as Captain Duran arrives, tell him to proceed here immediately. Yes, sir. The young guerrilla saluted and left. Colonel Holt was apprehensive over the long delay of Ernesto. He was concerned at what could happen to him. They all could not afford to lose an officer right now, much more one as valuable as Ernesto. Although at times they had disagreed on some matters, yet Colonel Holt believed in Ernesto. He admired his courage, intelligence, dogged determination, undoubted spirit, and sense of responsibility. Colonel Holt went over some of the papers on his desk just to take his mind off from his anxiety. It usually took Ernesto 5 hours to hike the distance from the town to their headquarters. The way back about an hour longer due to the uphill climb. But this time it took him 6 hours, his legs getting heavier, not from the long journey but more from the strain of the incident which happened earlier that afternoon. His unsuccessful meeting with Mr. Miura had left an imprint on him. The bitterness in Mr. Miura's voice still clearly bothered him. Far more painful, however, was the thought which seemed to linger and to nag his consciousness. It was of Joybell and the young Japanese with the ukulele. Although his sight of the Japanese was brief and passing and from a distance, yet the latter's feature was distinctly clear in Ernesto's mind. It was the face of an innocent boy glowing with the wonders of young love, that newly discovered indescribable feeling. Ernesto sensed that he was a truly good young man, but he also presented a threat to his own happiness. The two unpleasant experiences had sapped Ernesto of his energy and spirit. As Ernesto reached Colonel Holt's hut, he practically slumped down on the bamboo bench. His frustration did not escape the colonel, who guessed instantly that Ernesto's trip was far from success. Is the girl uncooperative? I didn't talk to her, sir. What? You spent the entire day and almost half of the evening and tell me that you didn't talk to her? Colonel Holt stood visibly upset and disappointed. What's the matter, Captain Duran? Don't you realize what any delay in the accomplishment of your mission means? I am aware, Colonel Holt. I talked with the girl's father instead. That Japanese? You realize what you have done? You can entrust your top secret assignment to a Japanese. The colonel's face turned so red like every drop of blood in his system had rushed up to his head. Mr. Miura is more Filipino than Japanese. He may be a Japanese by blood, but he is really a Filipino at heart. And in principle and in mind, the colonel was visibly upset. There was silence. Ernesto understood what the colonel meant. Did he accede to your request? Ernesto just shook his head. That is to be expected. You should have not talked to him in the first place. He was more alarmed than disturbed. No matter what you say about him, he is still a Japanese. I only tried to spare the girl. You defied the order because of the girl. I hope you understand the gravity of what you have done. The Japanese could alert the enemies of the plans. It's not like you to disobey your superior's instruction. I'm sorry, Captain Duran. You disappointed me. The jaw of Ernesto tightened. Twice today, he disappointed two people. Many times he had been entrusted with delicate and dangerous assignments and had never failed. He had received praises, but now, After all he had done, he was diminished into a disappointment to the core because he preferred to act with compassion. Ernesto could not help but feel bitter at his turn of events. Although painfully aware of his duty as an officer, nonetheless he just not now realized what life in the army demanded. It was always one's duty above all others, above oneself. I'll give you this one last chance. You know I'm sure what it means if you fail this time, so remember, it is either your mission or the girl. I want your answer, Captain Duran. I am an officer and shall do my duty as officer, sir. Good, that's more like it. The colonel relaxed back on his chair. The red flush on his face had faded, and his color returned to normal. The blood had rushed back to where they belonged. Ernesto appeared stoically composed, but inside him was another story, one of chaos, of grief, of loss, of utter helplessness. 3 consecutive knocks on the door crossed the barrier of eerie silence between the two men. Come in. The colonel straightened up. The door opened and a courier from the guerrilla unit of the adjacent province came in, followed by the American officers. The courier saluted and handed an envelope to the colonel. A message for you, Colonel Holt. These officers are here to see you, Colonel. The lanky officer stepped forward and executed a salute. Captain Smith from Central Intelligence. The American lieutenant with the broad heavy belt followed. Lieutenant Adams from G2. After acknowledging their salute, Colonel Holt signaled Captain Duran to the new arrivals. He then signaled the courier to leave them. Welcome, officers. Please sit down. Colonel Holt motioned the 2 American officers to the bamboo chairs. They sat down and waited, while the colonel read the message handed to them. After folding back the papers, he looked at the 2 officers. You came direct from General MacArthur's headquarters. Yes, Colonel. We came by submarine last night. We brought you new radio equipment. It would speed up communication with you. Ammunition and arms will follow soon. Colonel Holt smiled with relief and suppressed joy. Captain Smith took from Lieutenant Adams a large package and handed this to Colonel Holt. The colonel's face beamed as he opened the package on the desk and saw the gleaming new radio receiver transmitter. It was the first and most modern equipment they had received for a long time. With their old radio equipment, their communication with the Allied forces had been very limited. Bring this to our communication hut, Captain Duran. Have Joe install this immediately. We should now be able to receive all messages without interference. We can't afford to miss messages from General MacArthur's forces. Ernesto took the radio and left for the communication hut. Colonel Holt and the 2 American officers continued to confer on the latest developments on General MacArthur's landing in Leyte and the ongoing offensive. I can't offer you coffee, but we have salabat, a ginger drink, if you care. No thanks, Colonel. When is General MacArthur coming to Luzon? That's what we are here for, to help prepare for the next landing here in Luzon. We were sent to assist you coordinate the necessary assaults on the remaining enemy defenses in the provinces in Luzon. We have been waiting long for your help. We lack men, ammunition, and food, and almost everything needed to fight a war. Very soon, arms, ammunition, and food will be here. That will help much in boosting the morale of our men. I have a pack of cigarettes and some bars of chocolate. You may have this, sir. Captain Smith placed on the table the pack of cigarettes and a dozen bars of chocolates, all with US brand or Blue Seal, as what was more popularly known. Colonel Holt's eyes brightened at the sight of the items on his desk. Now he could feel the tangible proximity of American aid and eventual liberation. Thank you. My men would welcome this very much. Colonel Holt, we will be visiting the other units at the other side of this mountain before morning. Thank you again for the help. Good luck, officers. The hand clasps were strong and warm and carried with much reassurance and confidence. The 2 Americans joined their guide outside for their next destination. Ernesto pushed the door of the communication hut and walked to where Joe sat. "For you, Joe." Ernesto put down the package on the table. Joe unwrapped the package and his eyes glistened with excitement. "Baby, baby, you are a darling." He kissed the radio with loud smacking sound. "Thanks, Cap." "Shall we try her, Joe?" "Oh boy, I'm dying to do that." With adept hands, Joe handled the radio as if it would break, while Ernesto observed with admiration. As soon as the new radio was installed, Ernesto decided to stay a little longer, hoping for incoming messages. But the commotion outside drew his attention. He went out of the hut to investigate and saw Colonel Holt surrounded by the men, practically being mobbed by them. Ernesto hustled his way through the crowd. The cheering of the men was hysterical and deafening. "Blue Seal, good chocolate, cigarettes, US brand. Boy, this is heaven." The shouting and the dancing turned wilder. Older men, more than 100 of them, were passing from one another the bars of chocolate, each one taking just a bite, thus allowing everyone a taste of the precious manna which carried the promise of imminent aid. "Easy, men, enjoy." The colonel tried to appease them, but his voice was drowned out by the maddening shout of his men. The pack of cigarettes was distributed, a cigarette for every 10 or more men, each one eagerly inhaling from the cigarette. It was both a heartening and pitiful sight. Ernesto stood silent as he pondered and witnessed this joyous yet pathetic scene. "Colonel Duran, come, a message is coming." Joe called Ernesto, who ran back to the communication hut. Joe listened, holding his breath, afraid his breathing would interfere with his hearing. He scribbled the message as fast as his hand could write and handed it to Ernesto. After a quick glance of it, Ernesto hurried back to Colonel Holt. "This message just came in, sir." Ernesto handed the paper to the colonel. "Come with me, Captain." The colonel walked to his hut, followed by Ernesto. As soon as they were seated, the colonel read aloud the message. "A reconnaissance plane will fly over your area of operation at 800 hour tomorrow. Give cover. Pilots are on important mission concerning landing." Colonel Holt went over the message again, and Ernesto listened intently. The colonel stood and went near the old map on the wall. "Organize 3 teams, Captain Duran. You lead the first, Lieutenant Toribio will lead the second, and Lieutenant Dizon will handle the third. Spreading around this area," the colonel traced with his finger, "as the coastal portion of the town and the perimeter of the garrison. See to it that these areas are well covered. Give strict instruction. The pilots must not fall into the hands of the enemies at all costs." "Yes, sir." "Any question, Captain?" "Regarding Lieutenant Dizon, sir, don't you think it's too premature to let him lead a team? We badly need officers, Captain." "He had already passed the test. Anything else?" "That's all, sir." "Organize the teams right away." At the communication hut, Joe was intently listening to the clear sound of his new equipment. He brushed his palms against it as if it were his baby. A rustling sound outside the hut interrupted him. He looked around, trying to trace the source of the sound, then quickly but quietly rushed out to the back of the hut. There was a shadow of a man standing very close to the back wall, his back against the wall. As Joe approached, the man jumped out from where he stood and hurriedly walked away. Blood rushed to Joe's face, and with lightning speed, gave chase to the fleeing figure and tackled him, pinning the man to the ground. "Lieutenant Dizon!" Joe could hardly believe it was Lieutenant Dizon as he got a close look at his face. "So it's you? So what?" There was irked impatience in Lieutenant Dizon's voice. "You were behind the hut. Why?" "None of your damn business. Let me out of here." Dizon brushed Joe aside, but Joe firmly kept his hold. "Lieutenant, what gives?" Joe got more suspicious of the reaction of the lieutenant. "Let go." Dizon forcefully pushed Joe, sending the American rolling on the ground. Joe got up, furious at what the lieutenant had just done. "This will," reached the colonel. "What the hell are you talking about?" Dizon faced Joe squarely, his face flushed. "Why were you behind my hut?" "I can go anywhere I please," he retorted sharply. Not around my territory, man. I saw you with my own eyes. You were snooping behind the hut, and I saw you run away. You surely smell fishy, and this time I caught you in the act. This time, man, you're hooked. You're not getting away with this." Joe pointed a threatening finger at him. "Put that damn finger down." He brushed aside Joe's hand from his face. "This is for playing so smart." Dison gave Joe a swift uppercut straight to his jaw. An exchange of blows followed. The guards a few feet away saw what was happening and ran to fetch Ernesto. Ernesto arrived at the scene and saw a throng of men already gathered around Joe and Dison, cheering them on and turning the impromptu boxing bout into an exciting amusement. "Attention!" Ernesto's voice rang loud, but he had to bodily and forcibly separate the two. "What's the matter, man?" "That power-drunk SOB, sir, thinks he could boss us around." Dison pointed a finger at Joe. "He poked his nose around too much, Captain. That's what's wrong with that guy. I caught him snooping behind the communication hut." Ernesto was visibly concerned at what Joe had just reported. "He smelled mighty fishy, Captain," Joe sneered. "That's a big lie. I'm fed up with your know-it-all attitude, lording over people and getting away with it. You think you're the only smart ass around here. You don't have the monopoly on that. Think about it." Dison blurted the words without hesitation and with an air of injured pride. "Stop it," snapped Ernesto. "Right now we have more important matters to do than this bickering. Lieutenant Toribio," Ernesto addressed the lieutenant beside him, "assemble the first platoon right away at the conference hut." "Yes, sir." Lieutenant Toribio saluted and did what he was told. "Lieutenant Dison, there are restricted areas in this camp. I don't want this incident to happen again." "That goes for you too, Lieutenant Fern." The two lieutenants stood at attention, joined the men. Lieutenant Dison will follow. Dison did as he was instructed only after throwing a sharp, disgusting look at Joe. "Well, Joe, I'm sorry, Cap, but I don't trust that guy." "Be more careful, Joe. We don't have the evidence. Just be watchful, though. Protect the secrecy of our communication." "Oh, just leave him to me, Cap. Traitors and spies have no place here." "Easy, Joe. We can't afford to have trouble in our camp just now." "You don't believe me then, Cap?" "I do believe you, Joe, but we just can't do anything right now. What we got is just not enough." "I'm glad you believe me, Cap. Back home, Mom and Dad never believed in me, nor thought of me as someone who could make something of himself. I was a good-for-nothing. That's how they looked at me. Mom called me a coward cause I refused to hit back. And Dad, whenever he came home drunk, a hopeless coward, they both said. But they never got to really understand me. But you haven't heard the best yet. You know how they dealt with problems? They got dead drunk. And I told myself then that they were the cowards, not me. I'll show them. They'll see. I'll show them I'm worth more than a penny. Put me to the front line, will you, Cap?" "Your time will come, Joe. Go back to your post. We can't miss a message now." Ernesto patted Joe. Joe appeared touched by the gesture and walked back to the communication hut, while Ernesto proceeded to where the men have gathered. Joe's report bothered him, but he just had to put this aside for now. With an important mission at hand, he needed every man available. Upon reaching the assembled group, Ernesto quickly made the announcement. The men were all eagerly attentive, and Lieutenant Toribio and Lieutenant Dison were intently listening to Ernesto's briefing on their mission for the next morning. Ernesto walked to the big sketch of the town on the Manila paper, which hung on the only wall of the conference hut, the three other sides left open in order to accommodate the men outside the hut. Ernesto briefed them on their assignments and pointed out on the sketch the respective areas of responsibility. "Lieutenant Toribio, you take the northernmost area of the town along the coast. Take the first squad with you. And Lieutenant Dison, you lead the second squad. You will cover the southern side of the town. And the third squad will go with me. We shall take the central area. Take every precaution not to attract attention along the way. Since we are specifically to provide cover to the plane and rescue the pilot, if necessary, we must use our firearms only at any gun emplacement that target the plane. We are not there to take on the entire Japanese forces. Therefore, as soon as the plane had safely turned around and left, leave immediately and be back here. Take as much rest as you can. We leave at 002 hour in the morning. Yes, sir. Toribio and Dison answered in unison. Follow me, men. Toribio signaled his squad to follow him toward the fallen log. He sat down and his men did the same. He gave instruction in a low, deliberate, and clear voice. Take over your squad, Lieutenant Dison. Yes, sir. Dison saluted Ernesto. Dison looked at his men briefly, then stood before them with confidence. Men, from now on, you'll take your orders only from me. He started to eye each intently and searchingly, walking back and forth. Tomorrow, I want every man to follow instructions and to do his job well. I want discipline in my group. That's all. The men broke up and walked to their respective hut. Dison was left half smiling and thinking, tomorrow is my big day. He told himself, I have to get hold of the plan, even if I have to kill for it. That night, Dison could not sleep thinking of the plan. He was restlessly thinking of a way to slip out to alert the garrison about the next day's operation. But Ernesto was always there at his side, as if watching his every move. Dison could sense Ernesto's extra vigilance, and this gave him no small amount of discomfort. It was driving him crazy. At exactly 2 in the morning, the 3 squads prepared for their trek to town, well briefed in their operation. They had rifles, 3 machine guns, and a few hand grenades, and even hunting knives and bolos, which were all concealed in many different ways. The rifles and machine guns in jute sacks and the rest in burry bags. The men were all disguised as farmers and vendors. They all deployed around the town by 2s and 3s. Part of Ernesto's squad was to enter the town in a cart filled with coconuts. 2 of Ernesto's men were dressed in women's attire. Ernesto himself was in old man's clothing, complete with glasses and burry hat. Be very careful and always watch for your signals. Avoid engagement with the enemies in populated areas. These were the last instructions of Colonel Holt as the 3 squads left their camp. That's all for today, to be continued on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I hope you will inspire me with a like, share, and subscribe.